The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Let me just say, after video distorting the belt to proclaim me the real world champion, I'm going to tell y'all with a tear in my eye, this is the greatest moment in my life. When you walk around this world and you tell everybody you're number one, the only way you get to stay number one is to be number one.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. It's Wednesday, June the 7th, 2023. Welcome aboard the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Glad you could join us. Yours truly, Captain Lou, with you in the chair on this big day. A lot of news in the world of sports yesterday. We'll dive right into it momentarily. Of course, what a lot of people are talking about, the PGA Tour merger with the Live Tour and the DP World Tour. Kind of a shocker yesterday afternoon. It was kind of wild, all that's transpired with the PGA Tour, and we're going to dive into that here in a little bit. Kind of overtook Game 3 coming up tonight in the NHL Stanley Cup Finals between the Florida Marlins, the Florida Panthers, and the Vegas Golden Knights, with the Knights up 2-0. They look to take a stranglehold on that Stanley Cup Final, and Florida, of course, looking to rebound with a win tonight on their home ice, if they hope to anyways. And also tomorrow night, Game 3 of the NBA Finals between the Miami Heat and the Denver Nuggets. Miami with a big comeback in Game 2 the other night. They're all tied up at 1. So a lot to talk about there. Jacob deGrom of the Texas Rangers signing that 5-year, $185 million contract to go to pitch for the Texas Rangers. I found out yesterday, or it was announced yesterday, that he's going to have Tommy John surgery, so he'll be done for the rest of the year, and won't be back until next year. A big blow to the 35-year-old two-time Cy Young Award winner. Had his season stats staggering again. One of the best pitchers, and probably could have been regarded as one of the best pitchers in Major League history, just beset by injuries throughout his career with the New York Mets and now with the Texas Rangers. So tough break for deGrom. We'll talk a little bit about that towards the end of the show as well. Want to remind everybody you can join us here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Follow us on Twitter at Real Captain Lou, or follow us on Facebook at the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Or as always, drop me an email, sweetlou1965 at yahoo.com. And of course, we also want to remind you that today's show, as always, is brought to you by MahlerBros.com. Check out the website for the best in golf attire, or just if you want to go anywhere and look great. That's MahlerBros.com. They've got sleek designs, very lightweight, make you feel good out on the golf course or at that party or whatever you're going to be doing, that barbecue this summer. And if you look good, you feel good. And if you're on the golf course and you feel good, you're going to play good. It's going to give you that extra added advantage. That's MahlerBros.com, and make sure you use the promo code BELLYUP, and you'll get 15% off of your purchase at checkout. So that is MahlerBros.com. Make sure you use the promo code BELLYUP. Well, we'll get into the Live Tour by giving you our poll question that is going to be, you can answer it on Twitter or on my Facebook page, the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Of course, you can see my Twitter handle right there at the Real Captain Lou. What do you think of the merger of the PGA Tour, DP Tour, and the Live Tour? We've got the poll question up. Is it great for golf? Is it bad for golf? Is it going to make you not want to watch the PGA Tour or golf in general again, with the announcement that they're going to be funded mainly by the by the Saudi money, or do you really care for that matter? And right now the poll question is, see if we can't get that poll question. The latest updates right now, 35.7% of you don't really care. It's 25% say it's bad for golf. 21.4% say it's great for golf. And 17.9% say, you know what, it's good for golf. So we'll have to make sure you check it out. That's our poll question today. We'll have it up until our show on Friday, so you'll have plenty of time to check it out. That is our poll question. Powered up again as by Belly Up Sports, as we always are here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We are brought to you live on our on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. We also invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can get all kinds of interviews that we've done in the past. And if there's something that you may have wanted to watch in the past, that of course is right here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. All right, again, the big question, the big news yesterday, is funny, is I was on my way home from my doctor's appointment for my rehab for my surgery I had on my foot, and it came over my phone that there was a massive merger. The DP Tour and the PGA Tour and the Live Tour, which now the Public Investment Fund, if you will, that's going to be their, I guess, their public name now. They came to a head with a merger, and I'm thinking, a merger? It was like that shocked the sports world yesterday. And you know, all you could start to think about it is all the different ramifications. So many things to kind of unravel or to peel off on this. Is it good? Is it bad? When did it come about? How did it come about? You know, and there's so many questions. And you know, the first thing is was it brought up? You know, was the tour board, was the policy board kept abreast by this? It happened so quickly. And you know, they were on CNBC yesterday afternoon, Jay Monahan and the leader of the Live Tour, and you know, they talked about, you know, getting together, how they trusted. There's a sense of trust. And you know, your first question is, can this be ran? Was this ran by the policy board? Apparently, Rory McIlroy is on the policy board. Can it be passed without them? You know, so that's the first question. And then it all comes back to, you know, obviously, I think the big question is, did it come down to money? And the answer is probably yes. You know, the PGA Tour was going up against the Live Tour with these purses. It was so ironic that Monday or yesterday morning, before I went to my appointment, I was reading an article, I think it was in Golf Digest, where, you know, Rory McIlroy was lamenting the fact that the tour was, you know, the majors were paying out purses of $18 and $20 million a year, while the Live Tour, every tournament was $25 million. And, you know, it's a secondary tour. Well, it was kind of treated that way as a second-class citizen, and they're giving out big money. You know, I look at it, and it's so, yeah, money was probably the leading cause behind it. The PGA Tour needed it. You know, they couldn't compete with these purses, and you know, the Live Tour was giving out, you know, 9-figure salaries or sign-on bonuses, if you will, to Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau. I mean, you know, the money that they made was incredible. Now, the first thing you ask, or one of the questions that you're going to ask, is, you know, will the Live Tour players be accepted if they come back? You know, they're going to be coming back. They're going to be playing in the tournaments. You know, when do they start playing? You know, are they going to be playing in the 2023, or the 24 season? Are they going to be sprinkled in at the end of this year? We talked about this on Monday, and you know, it begged the question to ask, what you know, what are they going to be in the Ryder Cup? And you know, it's funny, is we talked about this with Chris Mascaro. He was on our show last week. I want to go back and bring you just a snippet of what him and I talked about on our show last week, where I asked him, you know, are they going to be playing in the Ryder Cup? Are these Live Tour players going to be in the Ryder Cup? And if they do merge, it's so ironic. We didn't know anything about this last week, and I asked them, what changes were made? What have they adapted? Will they adapt it? And let's take a listen real quick of what Chris had to say. Should the PGA adapt anything that the Live Tour is doing maybe down the road?
So, okay, so let me take that one at a time. Live Tour players be allowed to play in the Ryder Cup, 100%. Look, as Brad Jackson and Brandel Chambly debated on the Golf Channel, right, last week or whatever day that was, I think Fax has got it right. Look, these guys aren't playing for their tour. And, oh, by the way, the PGA Tour doesn't run the Ryder Cup, right? It's a PGA of America event, and those guys were playing in the PGA just this past week. So, yes, those guys should be. You're playing for your country. You want the best players out there playing against one another. Rahm said it just the other day as well when he's talking about the European side. He's bemoaning the fact that Sergio Garcia, who's the best Ryder Cup player ever, isn't going to be a part of that team, isn't eligible to be a part of that team. And there's always been a great Spanish duo, right, going back to when Seve and Jose Maria were paired together. And obviously Rahm and Sergio have been paired together. I think we lose out by not having Sergio even be eligible to play because the DP World Tour has told them, they're definitely out. The PGA of America hasn't said the same about the LIV players. And look, do you want, a Dustin Johnson on that team? A guy just went 5-0. You're telling me you don't want a Dustin Johnson on that team? You don't want a Brooks Koepka on that team? You don't want a Bryson DeChambeau, who seems like another guy who's fought his way back from injuries and getting back into form into the top of his game? You don't want those guys a part of the team? Seriously? Come on. Of course you do. So I think 100% those guys should be allowed to be a part of the Ryder Cup team. And I'd be surprised, at least on the U.S. end. I mean, think about it. Brooks finished second at the Masters, tied for second, and he just won the PGA. If he goes out and wins the U.S. Open, Zach Johnson doesn't want that guy on the team? Come on. Of course Zach Johnson wants that guy on the team. Zach wants to win. And again, it's not about the PGA Tour at this point, and nor is it about the DP World Tour. And to your second part of your question, I mean, look, the PGA Tour has already adapted just about everything that LIV did, right? I mean, now they're talking about next year about having, some of the elevated events be shorter fields and no cut and all that sort of. The only thing the PGA Tour hasn't stolen from LIV is letting the guys wear shorts, and I think that's on the way too. I've been a big proponent. Let the guys wear shorts. We wear shorts. Don't we? We go out and play on Saturday and Sunday. We're not playing in pants. People say, well, that's not professional. That's baloney. I mean, look, they're out there playing in joggers and hoodies.
Yeah. So
we're drawing the line at shorts. That's where, I mean, the joggers don't even go all the way down to the pants. You see their bare ankles and all that sort of stuff, and they're wearing hoodies. I mean, okay, let them wear shorts, for crying out loud. I think everything that LIV did is something that they wanted to do on the PGA Tour, but Jay Monahan was too caught up in his own ego to think that they'd ever get this thing off the ground. I believe he never thought it would get off the ground, and obviously it did. Mm-hmm. And then all the things that LIV is doing is something that I think the PGA Tour should do. Now, we can debate whether 54 holes is right or wrong. We're used to 72 holes, and frankly, I love 72 holes because I get 4 days of golf instead of 3, right? So I'm all for that. But hey, when the calendar turns to July and August and September, no one's watching golf on Sundays. I mean, we're all watching the NFL and college football and all that sort of thing. So the idea that it would only be three rounds isn't a horrible idea because we're not watching the 4th round anyway. So they've got that piece going. So again,
that, of course, Chris Mascaro from Next on the Tee podcast. It was great to have him on last week, and little did we know we'd be talking about this with this merger of the LIV Tour. And there again, we talk about it. So many things to unravel in this. You look, he brought something up about Jay Monahan, and it's absolutely right. His ego was, it brought up something that he said last year. Monahan took the blood money that he forbid the tour players from taking. He got on his high horse last year and he said, hey, remember 9/11, remember everything that went about with that. And these players are going to be taking their money. And he got on that moral high ground, and he looks like a hypocrite right now. There's no doubt about it. And, now he's the feeling out there, and there's a lot of people that are upset about this. He talks about taking the blood money and how bad it was for the players to take it. Now he's taking it. That is the impression that a lot of people have in the tour right now and about the tour. It's a bad look. And, you know, another thing, you watch all these pundits in the national media, you know, PGA Tour players are calling and texting national media players wondering what they know about this merger because they didn't know anything about it. There was no transparency in this merger at all. And it's such a bad look. You know, I talk to my friends' family that, you know, I've got, my stepson is an assistant pro right now at a course out in Denver. And he talks to a lot of people. And, you know, they don't know if this is a good thing for the PGA Tour. Nobody knows. There is so much to unwrap about this. So much. You know, it's mind-boggling how haphazard this looks with the PGA Tour. And, you know, it just seems to me that, you know, there's chaos there right now. They're grasping for straws that, you know, they're I'm not saying it's anarchy, but they were panicking and the PGA went for the money. And I don't know if that's a bad thing. Is it going to be great for golf? Who knows? We don't know. This is such uncharted territory. You know, everybody's going to get paid in the PGA Tour. Now, here's the next question that I ask. I think to myself, you know, guys like Rory McIlroy and Jon Rahm and some of the other big names, Colin Morikawa, whatever, that got offered hundreds of millions of dollars to go to the LIV Tour. Are they going to get any money up front now for not taking that money? Now, and I personally don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with the guys that went to the LIV Tour. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I'm not in that position. If someone walked up to me and offered me $125 million up front, I mean, how can I don't know how I would handle that. It would be a gut check. You know, now obviously, you know, if I turn that money down, in my line of work, I would not be able to compete for millions upon millions of dollars. I'm not going to make millions upon millions of dollars a year. But I've never begrudged these players on the LIV Tour for taking that kind of money. You know, and I guess my other thing with this is I go back to when they took the money and people were complaining about them taking the blood money. Well, I always, you know, and I see these other professional athletes in other leagues, you know, complaining about it. And the first one that pops up to me is the NBA. The NBA takes China money. You know, you see the atrocities that go on in China, you know, with the slave labor and all the money that we're taking, this country, not we, but the country. And it's billions and billions of dollars that they're taking from China. And now all of a sudden it's, you know, it's okay for them to take that money, but to take the Saudi money is something different. So there's a big hypocrisy right now in society with the blood money. And I'm not condoning anything that happened in Saudi Arabia or what's going on, you know, their stance, you know, women's rights and everything. But I look back at what the PGA Tour supposedly stood for, and all of a sudden now they're changing their tune and they're going after the big bucks. And, you know, and I look at it from the player standpoint, you know, how is this going to change the landscape? There's so many questions that are yet to be answered. Here's another one. What happens with the individual tour sponsorship, the sponsorships? You know, for example, I saw an article or an interview with Mark Rolfing yesterday. They host the opening event of the season in 2024 in January, a championship for the players out in Hawaii. You know, are they going to all of a sudden have to come up with more money? Can the sponsors come up with this money? Is, you know, with the PGA Tour purses come up, is this going to be solely funded by the PIF? I mean, how is this going to work? How is this going to affect somebody like Rocket Mortgage, who is going to be sponsoring the event here in Detroit in a couple of weeks? Now, this year it won't affect them, but maybe it will next year. Are we going to lose some of these tournament sponsors? Are they going to be expected to bump up, you know, the amount of money that they contribute to these purses? So many questions that are yet to be answered with this. And it just, I don't know. This is the thing. There's so many ways to peel this back. I think in the long run, I think it might be okay for the PGA Tour, but we're going to have to accept the fact that money is being funded by foreign entities, with the Saudi money. And if you think this is going to stop here with the PGA Tour, I think you're crazy, because this is going to affect all the other landscapes in the professional sports in the United States. I look at the money that they're throwing towards the Premier League with soccer. They're offering Messi and some of these other top names, Ronaldo, billions of dollars to play. What, $213 million I saw that was offered to Messi. If you take that in perspective, $213 million a year. The NFL salary cap right now for each team is $225 million. So, I mean, the money is hard to fathom. You look at some of these contracts that are paid right now in American sports. The football, like some of the guys in basketball are going to be making $600 million, $300 million over 6 years, $50 million a year contracts. I mean, that's nothing compared to what the Saudis are paying some of these Premier League players. It's coming this way, and I look at the potential, let's say some of these struggling franchises in the NHL or Major League Baseball, look at a team like Tampa or whatever. They're struggling. They want, or Oakland for that matter. Here's an opportunity possibly for a Saudi-backed organization. Maybe it's the same people come in and they're going to, invest $5 billion into a team, or $10 billion. The price of a franchise right now is about $5 to $6 billion. This is nothing with the kind of money they're throwing around for the LIV Tour, for the PGA Tour. It's going to be here. The money's going to be here. They're going to find their way into American sports. Get used to it. You might not agree with it, but it's going to be there. And I also, I look back at some of the other mergers back over the, period of time. I was born, but I don't remember the AFL and the NFL merger, but they merged. And, everybody thought at first that it wasn't going to work. Well, I think it's worked all right. The ABA and the NBA back in the 70s. I remember watching those teams, the Denver Nuggets, ironically enough, who are in the NBA finals now. They brought over 3 teams, I think 3 or 4 teams, and it's worked quite well. Thank you. The NHL and the WHA back in the late 70s with the Canadian teams that merged. For 95% of those teams, it's worked. And mergers happen. It's just the transparency and the way this merger went about is borderline laughable. You've got players that were so left in the dark that, they didn't know what was going on. And, they had a players only meeting, or a meeting with Monahan with the players. And, yesterday, and it was indeed contentious, as it said. I listened to a couple of the people that were on Golf Channel. Johnson, I can't remember his last name. Keeping in track via text with the players, and some of them standing up and calling Monahan a hypocrite. And he does come across as a hypocrite. There's a ton of anger. There's sadness. There's, most of all, is confusion. What is going to become of the tour? No, everybody was left in the dark. Again, when you go and announce this and it comes across on Twitter, golfers out on their pro-ams, especially the ones at the Heritage Classic up in Toronto, they're out, getting ready. They're in their practice rounds, getting ready for the pro-am today. And, this is going to overshadow that tournament, and it's going to overshadow the U.S. Open next week. It's going to. One of our majors. That's all that's going to be the talk about is, is it good? Is it bad? Are you happy? What do you know? That's going to be the big sticking point of the U.S. Open next week. I guarantee it. Is you're going to see, the talk all is going to be about this merger. And, I look back at, Rory McIlroy. He has been the guy. He has been the player spokesperson, if you will. He's had to look. He's taken the sword for the PGA. And he's on that policy board that we talked about earlier. I mean, what's this look for him? How does he feel about this? Obviously, nobody's talking to the media right now. None of the players are. Monahan had his press conference last night, and I didn't think it was that great of a press conference. I mean, he didn't really answer anything. There's a lot to be answered. What does Rory McIlroy do? The players left in the dark. It's just mind-boggling how bad of a look this was for the PGA Tour, and I don't know what's going to become of it. It's going to survive. Are they going to have team events now? What like the Live Tour had? Are they going to, like we mentioned with our talk with Chris Mascaro, are they going to go to 54 holes? I kind of doubt that. Again, I look back on it. 90% of the players in that meeting, were against it, and But here's the thing: a lot of the top players are not playing in this tournament. The bigger ones, they're going to be, they're resting up, practicing, for the U.S. Open. That's going to be next week. What are their thoughts of it? The players that are playing this week up in Canada are going to be hearing about it all week, and they're going to be asked after each round, and it's chaos. Not a good day for the PGA Tour. And of course, then you ask, is Jay Monahan's tenure as commissioner going to last? I understand he's going to be the CEO of this new venture, but is he going to get the backing of the players? That's a lot of questions that need to be answered. So many questions out of this. Do his words ring hollow in all of this? I don't understand, and I don't know. There's a lot of questions that are going to be answered, that are waiting to be answered on this. And it may blow over by the end of the year. And you look at it and you think, okay, here's something this is something new. This is a new era in sports. Obviously, it's the biggest day in golf, and as far as it's going to change the landscape. It shook the golf world. It has shaken the professional sports world too, because like I said, this is a monumental day in the world of sports. With the landscape. I know we've got the billionaire owners of the sports franchises here in the United States, but again, we've got these billionaire owners. Some of them are hemorrhaging money. You look at Major League Baseball. They've been losing money. They've claimed they've lost a ton of money. I know they get the TV contracts and all of that, but again, this is what I want to look at with this. How this again is going to change the landscape of professional sports in the United States. These franchises that are losing money, are they going to go now and look towards the Saudi money as a quick influx to get out and that they want to become a player because they see how much money is being made by these entities, the NFL, the NHL, the NBA, Major League Baseball. I mean, the billions upon billions of dollars they're getting just in television revenue. But now it's a lot of questions still out there that need to be answered with this PGA Tour, with the merger. And again, I look at it and I think, okay, what do we do next? What is next up? That is the question everybody's going to be asking. What is next for the Live Tour? What is next for the World Tour? It was indeed, the first thing you think of is it was all a money grab. It did come down to money, as we mentioned. The PGA Tour, the influx, they needed an influx of cash. They couldn't compete with the rising purses of the Live Tour and, rumblings of the guys not getting enough money in the purses. So so much more to take a look at. And we're going to keep tabs on it, again, here on our show on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. I'm sure we'll talk more about it on Friday. Maybe some more answers will come about. But again, here's our poll question, which you can find on my Twitter feed, which is at the Real Captain Lou or the Captain Lou Extravaganza. What do you think of the merger of the Live Tour with the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour? Is it great for golf? Is it bad for golf? Do you care? And will it make you stop watching the PGA or watching golf in general? Right now, 40% of the people don't care. 23.3% say it's bad for golf. 20% say it's great for golf, and 16.5% say they won't watch it again. So interesting to take a look at. It's wow. It's definitely a monumental day in the PGA world and the golf world in general, because again, not only does the PGA Tour, are they, how is it going to change them? How is it going to change the tour? But it's something to keep an eye on with how we're going to view professional sports here in the future. It's not going to stop with the PGA. I'm telling you, it's not going to stop, and it's all going to come down to money. And when they've got all that kind of, everything's got a price. The PGA is a business. The Live Tour is a business. And again, if you begrudge these players, for taking the money, you can say it's blood money, whatever. But my question to you is, how do you sit there, and if you're put in that position where you're offered, generational type wealth to play a game, up front, I'm talking 9 figures, hundreds of millions of dollars. What would you say? Really, honestly, how would you handle it? It'd be tough to turn it down. It really would. So that's my question to you. And again, one more time, there's our poll question. What do you think of the merger announced by the PGA Tour, DP, and the Live Tour? Answer. We've got the answers on our Facebook page, the Captain Lou Extravaganza, and of course on Twitter at the Real Captain Lou, or drop me an email, sweetlou1965 at yahoo.com. Wow, again, the big topic of the day. It's been talked about all over, and kind of overshadowed Game 3 of both the NBA Finals and the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. We'll talk about that here shortly. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about MahlerBrosGolf.com. You're out on the golf course with summer coming around the corner. We've had our first heat wave, if you will, here in the Michigan area, where temperatures got up in the low 90s last week. A little more spring-like here this week, but still, even in 70-degree weather, you're out on the golf course, you're in the sun, playing 18 or 27, and you've got that stretch where, wow, man, you're hot, you're sweaty, and you're starting to think about it, and it's kind of maybe affected your game a little bit, and you're thinking, man, what could I have done better? Well, I've got the answer for you. It's MahlerBros.com. They've got the design, the sleekness of the shirts, the lightweight material. It hugs you, but it makes you feel good. And when you feel good on the tee, on the course, you play good. Or you feel good, you look good. When you look good, you feel good, you play good. It all kind of intertwines together. And when you look good, you got that confidence. Even when you're going out later on that night, maybe to a barbecue or out to to a concert or whatever, just outside, and you're feeling good, and you interact better. It's all intertwined. Check out MahlerBros.com. They've got all the different kind of designs of the polos, T-shirts. We've also got swag with mugs and cups and you name it. But make sure when you go to MahlerBros.com, as you can see on the bottom of the screen, use the promo code BELLYUP, and you'll get 15% off your purchase at checkout. So again, if you want to look good on the golf course, when you look good, you feel good, you feel good, you play good. That's MahlerBros.com. Use the promo code BELLYUP for 15% off of at your purchase price. So you can't go wrong with that. That's MahlerBros.com. Again, welcome everybody to the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. A lot going on in the world of sports. The headlines, of course, yesterday we talked at length about the merger of the PGA Tour and the Live Tour and the DP World Tour, its effects, the good and bad of it, how it was handled, how poorly it was handled. So we talked at length about it. If you missed any of it, we invite you to go check it out on our on YouTube. Again, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Captain Lou Extravaganza, or the Captain Lou Sports Network. We have all of our shows and the guests that we have here on our podcast throughout the year. So again, we invite you to be a subscriber and be a follower of the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube, and of course, Captain Lou Extravaganza. Other things going on in the world of sports, something called a Stanley Cup Final. Game 3 is coming up here tonight from Miami. And first question is, how are the Panthers going to respond? They got pushed around out in Vegas in games 1 and game 2, 7-2 the other night against Florida on Monday night. Now game 3 tonight or Sunday night, I believe. I look at it, and right from the get-go, again, special teams were huge for Florida, or for Vegas rather, the power play. They've got 4 power play goals right now, and it's amazing. When I look at it with the Panthers, they came in with such a strong power play, or a penalty kill and power play for that matter, but the penalty kill 0 for 8 in that series against Carolina. And again, they've given up 4 power play goals in the first 2 games. My thing is, I look at it, and Vegas with their depth, we talk about it at length. How is Florida going to be able to handle this? And obviously, Vegas is showing their depth. Let's just look at the goal scorers again. Now, again, we have the usual suspect, Jonathan Marchessault, 2 goals again in game 2. He's got 12 goals in the playoffs. He started the scoring. And then you look at Alex Martinez, gets his opening goal of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And then Nicholas Waugh in game 2, just 3 minutes in the second period, 3 minutes in, putting Vegas up 3-0. And then Brett Howden with his 4th goal of the playoffs. Names that you don't really expect to be coming through for Vegas. It just shows you their depth. And it just, Florida, to me, they look befuddled, especially in the second period. And, I don't know how much of it I blame Bobrovsky. He got pulled in the second period in that contest. And, he was screened out on those shots, especially the last 2 in that second period. His own defenseman screening them out. And it just looked like Vegas just, I don't know if they had him overwhelmed, especially, we talked about it in the Dallas series with Vegas, how they came out so quickly, so fastly, just, a full court press, if you will. And they were able to establish the momentum and establish the offensive zone, the forecheck. And they haven't let up. What can Florida do to stop that in game 3? Now, we talk about keeping their cool. Florida is not the one that's been keeping their cool. Matthew Tkachuk, obviously, his bullying tactics, he plays on the edge. He was lauded for it in the other series, the Toronto series, getting under the skin of the Maple Leafs, and a little bit in the series against Carolina, and of course in the Boston series. But it's not working for him here in this Vegas series, and he's getting frustrated, kind of like how Trangelo for Vegas was against Edmonton. How he got frustrated and took that the two-handed chop to Draisaitl. But now the shoe's on the other foot. But one thing to keep in mind, game 3 tonight with Florida, remember, they were down 3-1 against supposedly the best team in NHL history for one season, that being the Boston Bruins. And they were able to respond and get the momentum back, winning game 5 in Boston, then going down, winning game 6 at home. And then, we all know what happened in game 7. Florida's not out of it, but they have to respond tonight with that series being all knotted up, with 2-0 in favor of Vegas. This is a huge game, obviously. The Panthers have to win. Asking them to win 4 out of 5 now is monumental. This Vegas team, again, going on all cylinders. They look strong in net. Aiden Hill is playing just remarkably, but again, the strength, the depth of Vegas is really showing in this one. And players that we haven't talked about yet that were big heroes in the Dallas series. Carlson, for example. But then you've got guys like Zach Whitecloud having a huge series. The defense is showing up on the scoreboard in the score sheet for Florida or for Vegas. That's another thing that Florida has to contend with. And then you ask, was this a one-off for Bobrovsky in game 2? I don't lay all that blame on him in game 2. He let up, again, if you watch it, you see how he was shielded in some of those, a couple of those goals. He may have given up one bad goal in game 2, but those, like the 2 goals in the second period, again, I don't blame him for those. So, I mean, I think he is not the issue here in this series. This Vegas is just overwhelming this defense for Florida, and they've got to respond. And, this is something that Boston didn't do. Boston, I think, they took the foot off the gas pedal and it crushed them. And Toronto, I still can't figure that out. They just played so passively, especially, on the defensive side, on the back end. Their back check was brutal. And Florida, they exploited it, and, they took advantage of it. Now, I think Vegas is exploiting Florida a little bit, especially in game 2. They had them on their heels, and they had them confused out there. But now this is their chance to respond. They're going to get the home crowd behind them tonight. This ought to be fun. This series is by no means over, but this is a big game for Florida tonight. In my opinion, they have to have it. They've got to withstand maybe the first 5 to 10 minutes. We talked about it throughout, in the when we previewed the series. They've got to withstand the opening 10 minutes. They are unable to do that. They were unable to do that in the first 2 games against Vegas, or in game 2 against Vegas, especially. No, they scored the opening goal in game 1, but Vegas, it was like, okay, they woke up and they took command of the game. And in game 2, it was all Vegas, 7-2. Game 3 tonight is huge. I look for Florida to respond a little bit better. I look for them to win tonight. I think they cut it to 2-1. And then after that, they can get back into the series and make a series of it. But this is huge tonight. Game 3 is big. They've got to have it, because obviously if they expect to go down 3-0 and make a comeback, that's not going to happen against this Vegas team. No way. The other series, or the other professional series that's in their finals, the NBA Finals, game 3 tomorrow night. The series is all tied up at 1. To say I was surprised that Miami came back after down 15 would be an understatement. I thought Denver had that in command. I went to bed. I figured the game was over. And I woke up and I saw the score, and I'm like, holy cow. So I watched a replay of it. And, it was weird, though. I looked at it, and this was uncharacteristic of Denver. It was almost like they were reading their press clippings. There was something about that game. I know they were up 15, and they were up, but they could have really put them away in the first half. And Denver, to me, they just didn't have it. Just, from an outsider looking in, it just looked like there was something missing there with the effort. It was like they didn't have that killer instinct in that game. And Miami exploited it. That is one thing. You can't let them hang around. Ask Boston. Ask Milwaukee. And, and the thing that is scary about it is, their big guy, Jimmy Buckets, playoff Jimmy. I mean, he really didn't look all that. He hasn't had one of his monster games yet. And, the first question you can ask a question. Was that the best Miami could play what they did in game 2? We're going to find it out. Or can they keep that level up tonight? And one of the things, their role players played a key. I look back to Duncan Robinson. He had a big game. We talked about it the other day on Monday's show. Having him out there, being effective as a decoy, even if he doesn't score the points. Bam Adebayo, to me, is having one hell of a NBA final. He's stepping up. Can he keep it up tonight in game 3? Then you look at on the Denver side, what's the panic level if you're Denver? They're not used to this. This is the first game that they've lost in over a month. We talked about it. They've had home court. They've controlled it. No one's been able to solve them there. They've never had any kind of adversity really in this, in this NBA tournament. I mean, yeah, they lost a couple of games in Phoenix, and it got tied up at 2. But, they never lost home court advantage. Now they've lost it. They have to regain it in Miami. Can they do it? I think they can. They've got the talent to do it. Miami made their shots. They made their shots in game 3, or game 2, rather. Can they make those 3-pointers? It's going to be interesting to see how they handle it coming up in game 3 tomorrow night. Now, here's, and the other question to look at, will the tough love from Mike Malone, the head coach, will it, how is that going to affect the team? No, I think they'll shrug it off. Myself, I don't really think that's going to be that big of a deal. But game 3 coming up, it's definitely must watch. Is it a must game for Denver? I don't know. I think it might be a more, as crazy as it sounds, it might be more of a must game for Miami, because if they can win game 3, and they can hold serve, they can win their 2 games at home, it's going to be making it that much more difficult for Denver to come back and win the series. Obviously, Denver needs to get one of these 2 games at Miami. Now, a win tonight for Denver would be huge. Then, they would have the home court advantage back going to Denver for game 5. I think this is a big game for Miami. They win this, that could really put Denver, in, I don't want to say panic mode, but not really behind the 8 ball, but it would really put them in a must-win situation, something that they really haven't had to deal with at all in this series, in a must-win situation on the road. They've got to win one of 2. Tonight would be huge for Denver if they could pull this one off. And, I think that they can, but it's going to be big. And we'll have to wait and see. That game 3 is tomorrow night. It's going to be a fun one to watch. Miami, like we said on Monday, they're kind of like Florida in the NHL. Miami was a number 1 seed last year in the tournament. So it's not like they're a team on the rise, like a team maybe, for example, like the New York Knicks, or the, if a team were to make a surprise run to the playoffs. Miami's been there. They're battle tested. What did I see yesterday? The Miami Heat have the most playoff wins in the last 4 years out of anybody in the NBA. Now, they haven't won a title with it, but they've got the most playoff wins out of anybody in the last 4 years. Can they keep it up? That is going to be what the question is going to be tonight again. Can they keep that level up? Not tonight, but tomorrow in game 3. So it's going to be fun to watch. We're going to keep an eye on that as well. Well, we're going to kind of maybe wrap things up here tonight, talking a little bit about something that happened in the world of baseball yesterday. Jacob deGrom signed a big deal at the beginning of the year with the Texas Rangers, and he's helping the Rangers. They're in first place right now. I don't know if they're the surprise team in all of Major League Baseball, but they're led by Jacob deGrom, and again, he was having another stellar year. I feel so sorry for the guy. The career that he had with the New York Mets, 2 Cy Youngs, one of the best ERAs of anybody in the last decade. He's right up there with Justin Verlander probably, and Max Scherzer, some of the best starting pitchers in the last 10 to 12 years. He signed a 5-year, $185 million contract with the Texas Rangers in the offseason, and he was on his way to another big year. 45 strikeouts and 2 walks, and I think 8 starts, something like that, 7 starts, just amazing numbers. ERA a little over 2. Again, leading the Texas Rangers to first place so far in the AL West. Comfortable lead right now over Houston and California Angels. He's going to have Tommy John surgery. He's going to be out for the rest of the year. Just a tough break for him. Don't know how, hopefully he can bounce back next year. 35 years old, signing that massive 5-year deal. Our best wishes out to Jacob deGrom, and hopefully he can bounce back from that and come back next year and pick up where he left off. Just a tough break for him and the Rangers. The Rangers will see if they can hold up and keep that lead over the Houston Astros as we approach the dog days of summer with June, mid-June now coming up around the corner. Texas looking strong, but definitely this is a big blow to them, and hopefully that he can recover. It's you look back at his career, and it's not over. He's a borderline Hall of Famer and probably will get in with winning 2 Cy Youngs. But boy, if he could have stayed healthy, he's missed so much time with with the Mets over his career, and still put up just monster numbers and getting those Cy Youngs. If he could have stayed a little bit healthier, what just astronomical numbers he could have put up as far as wins and strikeouts and whatnot. But, again, our thoughts and prayers go out for Jacob deGrom, and hopefully he can bounce back from this Cy Young surgery. So, well, hey, that's going to about do it. Again, we are going to leave you again, just kind of recapping the big news, in the sports world. Again, the world of golf taking center stage yesterday who would have thought that with all due respect to the Heritage Classic up in Toronto, who would have thought that that would be the center of the sports world yesterday with the announcement of the LIV Tour merging with the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour. Our poll question, you can find it at the on our Facebook page, the Captain Lou Extravaganza, and of course on Twitter at Real Captain Lou. What do you think of the merger announced yesterday by the PGA Tour, DP Tour, and LIV Tour? Right now, 25.8% of the folks say that it's bad for golf. 19.4% say it's good for golf. 38% say they really don't care. They'll watch it anyways. And 16.1% say they will stop and won't watch the PGA Tour ever again. So that's our question on our website or on our Facebook page and whatever. We'll have it up until Friday when we come back on the show. And I saw something here where Rory McIlroy did come out and address it. And he says he still hates the LIV Tour. Well, he's towing the company line, and I give him credit. He hasn't wavered from this. And, I feel bad. I don't feel bad for the guy, but I also think, this was another question. We talked about this. We'll leave you with this question too. When it comes to this, is we'll circle back around to the LIV Tour. We asked, and this question was brought up, will some of the players like Rory or Colin Morikawa or Jon Rahm, will they get compensated for what they turned down originally from the LIV Tour? And I don't think it's going to happen. They had their opportunity to do it. And I think maybe they'll get a little bit more. I mean, they were given a $12 million upfront money package, if you will, to play in a certain amount of tour events. And Rory has skipped a couple of them, so he had to sacrifice $3 million of it. I don't know if they will get compensated for that. I don't see that part of it happening because I think in the long run, they are going to get more money. The tour, the purses are going to go up. They're going to have to. But again, this is the big story in the world of sports. The PGA Tour merging with the DP World Tour and the Public Investment Fund, which of course, maybe it's formerly known as the LIV Tour. So many things to unwrap. If you missed any of our opening discussion about it, it's on our show. It'll be on the Captain Lou Sports Network with our show, the Captain Lou Extravaganza. So a lot to talk about. All beyond the sports stove tonight with Vince Stover, 8:15. We're going to talk about that as well. So check out his podcast coming up tonight as we'll talk more about that. And we'll talk again more about it on Friday, I'm sure. We'll be back live here, 10 o'clock Eastern time, Friday morning, with another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Well, hey, thanks for joining us here this morning. That's going to about do it. Enjoy Game 3 tonight of the Stanley Cup Finals, as it's going to be the Florida Panthers looking to get back into it. They trail 2-0. Vegas with a stranglehold. They're going to look to even get a bigger grasp on that Stanley Cup final and try to get their first Stanley Cup, as are the Florida Panthers as they look to try to get back into it. Game 3 tomorrow of the NBA Finals, the Miami Heat and the Denver Nuggets all tied up at 1. Miami with the home court advantage. They look to take a stranglehold on that. And no Tyler Hero, by the way, for Game 3 tomorrow night. So it'll be kind of status quo as far as the lineup for the Miami Heat as has been in this Stanley Cup Finals. So a lot to talk about on Friday. Can't wait to do it, and we can't wait to be with you again. Without you, this would not be possible. And we also want to thank the folks at Belly Up Sports who power us up here on our show here, the Captain Lou Extravaganza. All right, everybody, have a great day. Enjoy the sports. Enjoy life. Get out there and have some fun. Yours truly, Captain Lou, saying keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. Good afternoon, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you Friday right here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza on the Captain Lou Sports Network. So long.